Okay, hi everybody. We are here with the Wild Bill Swim and we're talking to Sherry Ruth. Sherry and I have known each other since I was young and she was my babysitter with her boyfriend, who is now her husband, Bill Ruth. He was actually on an interview with me last July. That's on the YouTube channel. So Sherry is a very accomplished athlete and have always looked up to her. She was a groundbreaking swimmer athlete in the 70s and was instrumental in getting Title IX into Springfield College. She has been an Ironman, IronWoman. She has been a coach in track and field for the throwers, volleyball, and swimming. She's really good at finding athletes for track and field just by looking at their physiology. And there's some really funny stories around that, which we may get to another time. But overall, and she's also a competitive bodybuilder in her 40s and in her 60s. Overall, one thing that is the common link is mindset and goal setting, and how important it is to set a goal and making incremental small goals to get you to your big goal. So since this is just at the edge of preseason and certainly just in time for training for the Wild Bill Swim on August 20th, that's what Sherry and I are going to talk about today. So I'm going to let Sherry introduce the way she sets up her goal setting, and we can ask some questions along the way. Okay, so hi, Sherry.
I
got my pen ready. I'm gonna take notes.
Yes, take notes, take notes.
Yes.
Because a goal that is just verbalized is only a wish. A goal that is written down is a commitment. So the first thing you need to understand about goal setting is that any goals that you have in any aspect of your life, not just, your swimming training or other athletic endeavors, but also any goals you have socially, family-wise, work-wise, whatever. Those goals need to be written down so that you make an actual commitment. A verbal just, oh yeah, I have the goal of such and such. Well, that's kind of a wish because there's no real commitment to it. There's nothing to follow it up. But when it's written down and you have the ability to look at that goal list or that one main goal every day, that's a reminder that can eat at you if you don't follow up on it. If you just say it, it's just kind of there and gone, and it's no big deal. But to write it down and put it in places where you see it all the time, whether it's on the refrigerator, whether it's on your work desk, whether it's on the mirror in your bathroom. We had swimmers back in the 70s where we had very supportive parents, fortunately, and we would actually have some of our swimmers write their goal times for the end of the ceiling, is paint those times on the ceiling over their bed so that that goal or those goals were the first thing they saw in the morning when they got up and the last thing they saw before they went to bed. So you want to put those goals where you'll have a constant reminder to help keep you on track. And the other serious part that goes along with that is that everybody doesn't deserve to know what your goals are. Too many people live to bring other people down to their level. So one of the most important things about goal setting is you want to share your goals only with the people who you know will support them and will support you. That's, in my mind, as important as writing those goals down, not just verbalizing them. Mm-hmm. Especially today, the way people have become so self-centered and entitled and everything else. They don't like to see other people succeed. So be very careful who you share your goals with and make sure it's only the people that you know will absolutely support you in those goals.
Mm-hmm. So Sherry, if someone is just getting started in goal setting and swimming, for example, how would you maybe set up not a program, but like, how would they get started doing that?
Well, first, I think you need to identify what your long-term goal is. If it's the Wild Bill Swim, if it's the mile swim, if it's the 3 mile swim, you've got to identify what that long-term goal is, what it is that's out there farther in the future
Mhm.
that you want to achieve. And once you've identified that long-term goal, then you need to establish some short-term goals, some steps along the way at regular intervals that you will need to achieve that will get you to that long-term goal. So I know if you say, oh, let's say you're going to swim the mile for the first time at the Wild Bill, and you don't know if you can make a mile swim yet. Well, one of those steps along the way is to know that you're going to be able to make a mile swim. So, what's going to get you there? Do you want to do, you're not going to try and go out and do a mile the first time when you're starting. You don't want to do that.
Mhm.
You'll hate that. But to do something like repeat swims, some interval training, doing maybe if you're a beginner starting off with 200s, tell yourself, okay, I'm going to do 5 200s today on such and such a time with maybe a minute rest in between each one. Okay, well, when you can accomplish that goal, well, then you can increase the number of 200s that you're going to do, or maybe you're going to decrease the amount of rest time that you're going to take so that you eventually get faster. And at some point along the way, you're going to want to do, as you build up, a continuous 1 mile swim, just so that you have the confidence knowing that you can make a mile swim.
Right.
And then it becomes working on your speed. And, then what do you need to do to increase your speed once you know you can make that mile and you're confident enough? So maybe you jump from doing 200 repeats to 500 repeats.
500-yard repeat.
Yards.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
On such and such a time with so much rest in between. And
Mhm.
as you start getting faster, cut down on the rest.
Mhm.
Or increase the number of 500 repeats that you do.
Mhm. Mhm. And I guess that would be the same for people who maybe know they could swim a mile because they did that last year, but want to swim the 2 mile this year or want to swim the 3 mile.
Sure.
Same
Yep.
kind, it's the same kind of thing. So,
Yep.
and I guess that the little small stepping stone goals are also the things that keep you accountable.
Yes. And
right?
like writing down all your goals, your short-term goal plan also needs to be written down. It doesn't just happen automatically. You've got to plan it. You've got to plan your workouts ahead of time to know, okay, this is what my plan is for today. You don't want to think about it last minute. You want to look at the whole overall scheme of what the long-term goal is, and then identify those small-term goals that you think will help get you there, and then make the short-term goals more specific. Make those workouts up, not just on a day-to-day basis, but look out a month or two ahead, and then get more specific by week and then by days, and then plan your week accordingly. Take into account job obligations, family obligations, anything that may get in the way of you accomplishing those small term goals along the way, or those daily activities that you need to do. And it may not be, swimming every day. Doesn't need to be swimming every day. You can do some weight training. You could do some other cardio. You could have some quality family time as a treat for yourself that you've earned because you've done so much of your plan.
Mm-hmm.
It also includes nutrition. Pay attention to what you're eating. When I was competing, I wrote everything down, every workout, what my repeats were, what I ate every day, so that if I had a bad race or a bad workout, I could look back at the previous day and say, okay, I had an upset stomach yesterday on the run. What did I eat yesterday that maybe didn't agree with me?
Mm-hmm.
And go back and evaluate that. Same thing with anything you're going to use for replenishment during any of your training.
Right.
Make sure you try, different things to see what it is that works for you. Because some things will and some things won't.
No, you have to try that. I have to try that all for sure. So when you say work back from months to weeks to days, so for example, like you talked about getting very specific on the actual training in the workouts you're doing, but that
Mhm.
the one step bigger from that is how many days a week are you training, which
Right,
would come up to how much yardage you're doing in a week.
correct.
And then on a monthly level, well, and to your point about family obligations or work obligations, well, these 3 days I'm traveling for work, that long weekend is a family weekend. What can you do in those times to support you? Because the stress of feeling like, oh no, I haven't got my workout in, negative for yourself and those around you
Oh,
than anything else, right?
absolutely. Yes,
Right.
been there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
life is life, and you make the long-term goals and the short-term goals based on what you have going on in your life right now and maybe down the future. You know when holidays are, when birthdays are and anniversaries and all those kinds of things, when people may be coming to visit or you're going on a trip or whatever. You'll know, a lot of that stuff ahead of time that you can kind of work around.
Mhm.
When stuff comes up kind of at the last moment, well, you just kind of roll with it. You can't control everything in your life. And if a workout doesn't get done that you were planning to get done, or it has to get cut short, that's okay,
Mhm.
because that's life and that's what we learn from.
Mhm.
So you adapt your workouts from that point on. Okay, so I missed this workout this day and I was really planning on having this be a big day, a big challenging workout. So how do I need to adapt the next couple days to work that back in or to adapt it somehow?
Right.
So
Right.
knowing your body and knowing what your capabilities at any given time are is really, really important in achieving those steps along the way that get you to the long-term goal.
Yes. So, and I think that brings us really easily into how you think about this whole process or mindset. Because when I talked about, oh, something gets in the way and interrupts your workout plan, and then you're very stressed about it, that's not a positive mindset bringing you forward because you're going forward from a place of lack. Oh, I missed this. Oh, I didn't do that yet. Whereas I think that you would agree that as you are planning all this, there is that first step, like you said, about the first step of any of this is knowing you can achieve that goal, knowing you can swim a mile, knowing you can swim 2 miles, and then making the small steps. So what would be some other mindset type of things that you could recommend people to do or read, or just how you would look at it yourself?
Well, I think for the wild bill and with, like swimming a mile, I think it's a confidence booster for people to know that they can do it. But for
Mhm.
something like an Ironman, very few people do an Ironman before they do the actual
I
race.
know. Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
don't have that confidence of knowing that
Yeah.
you can actually
But
do it.
I think that, well, because I've done one Ironman and I didn't have any doubt that I could do it. It didn't mean that I knew how I would finish, but I think in order to start training, you have to have the confidence in yourself. Okay, that's a goal. I'm going to make that happen.
Yes, you have to have the confidence in yourself to know that you will make yourself do whatever it is you need to do to accomplish that goal.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer that you can talk yourself into doing anything.
Yeah.
And if you have that belief in yourself, that takes you pretty far down the line,
Hmm.
so that when you have those days that don't work out the way you wanted them to, or maybe you get the flu or something, or you have some kind of setback, if you can allow yourself to go back to that positive line of thinking where you are confident about your plan, you're confident about your ability to execute the plan, then it makes it a whole lot easier for your head to believe that, yeah, okay, it's a setback, this is life, but I know how hard a worker I am. I know how dedicated I am to my goals. And I know that I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So whatever I have to make up or whatever other adaptations I need to make, I'm willing to do. I
Hmm.
might have to think about it a little bit more,
Hmm.
to adjust the plan.
Right.
But I have one, the positive affirmations and what you say to yourself is incredibly important. And when I was, teaching in school and health classes, and I would ask kids to make a list of 5 things they like about themselves and 5 things they don't like about themselves. And the 5 things they don't like about themselves, the kids would be done in under 2 minutes.
Hmm.
To find 5 things they do like about themselves, there were kids that couldn't come up with 5.
Mm.
And I'm talking on a regular basis. So, we have generations of kids who are, and this is, I'm talking back in the 70s even, generations of kids who don't have that confidence, that don't look at themselves favorably. And of course, that carries over into adulthood. We would talk about how you talk to yourself.
Mhm.
And I'd ask kids, how many do you talk to yourselves? And nobody would raise their hands. They'd say, oh, come on. We all talk to ourselves and admit it. And then the hands would go up. And we would talk about what you say to yourself. And most of what the kids would say to themselves was negative. It's all negative self-talk. And that's another reason why it's so important to share your goals only with people that will support them, because you will start to hear that negative self-talk as other people say, oh, 3 miles, and well, there's no way you could do that. And if you hear that often enough, you start to believe it. So you want to distance yourself from the naysayers and those kind of people in the first place. But to learn how to talk to yourself positively and supportively is a really big deal. When my husband and I did the Ironman in Kona in '82, we both put on our handlebars a piece of tape that said, I feel great. So that when you're busting your butt and your head is down and you're pedaling your butt off on that bike, all you see on those handlebars in front of you is, I feel great, I feel great, I feel great. So it doesn't really allow those negative thoughts in, because we were bombarding ourselves with, I feel great, I feel great. And that's all you saw.
Yeah.
And the positive affirmations work the same way. And one of my favorites came to me when Bill was in the hospital having open heart surgery because he had an aortic aneurysm. And I'm sitting in the waiting room by myself and I'm thinking, how am I going to be able to hold myself together in front of him?
Mhm.
And, I'm struggling with this. I have every confidence in the world in the doctors. I'm extremely confident. We actually went to Dallas to have it done.
Mhm.
And I'm struggling with myself, thinking, how am I going to hold myself together? And the thought just came into my head that I am as strong as I am willing to make myself be. And my second thought was, I know I can make myself do anything, because I've always believed that about myself. I was the tomboy in the neighborhood, so and when you're small, 5'2",
Yeah.
you got to learn to talk loud and carry the big stick, so I've always had that belief about myself. So I had those two things, that initial thought, that where it came from, I don't know. But it's been like my favorite ever since, because it kind of covers everything.
Mhm.
And then followed up with the belief that, and the thought, the affirmation that I know I can make myself do anything.
Yeah.
Was like a win-win for me.
Oh, yeah.
And, I calmed down. I put my thinking in a better, more level-headed frame of mind.
Mhm.
And, things ended up going really well. And I held myself together. And
Yeah. Yeah.
but that works for anything. You can talk yourself into doing something just as easily as you can talk yourself out of doing something. Most of us talk ourselves out of doing things,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's just as easy to talk yourself into doing something. And that's the frame of mind that you need to keep yourself in
Mhm.
when you've got any kind of goal, not just something physical,
Yes.
but any kind of goal.
Yes. Yeah. You have a little book full of affirmations that you wrote, if I'm not mistaken. I just remembered.
I do.
Is
But
it still
it's
on
it's
Amazon? Is it?
I don't know if it still is, actually. And I did that. Actually, I started it for a friend who had breast cancer,
Mhm.
and I was looking for something for her that was motivational and, kind of keep her on the right track. And, everything that I found was like, oh, be grateful for every day and look at the bright side of things. And I thought, I'm sorry, but that's just not me. If I was in that situation,
Yeah.
I would want somebody to give me a kick in the butt to keep my head screwed on straight so that I never gave up and kept on fighting.
Right. Right.
So, and I couldn't find anything like that. And, I'm just that kind of person. Tell it to me like it is. You don't have to sugarcoat anything, or, just if I need the kick in the butt, give it to me. If you need the kick in the butt, I'll gladly give it to you. So
Right.
that's really why I put that together, was, for her, that, and I ended up giving it to another maid, and I actually got a leather uh, notebook that I printed out the affirmations and pasted them all in like an old photograph
Yeah.
album
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And it was Bill who actually said, you should do something with that. But so that's how that ended up. But
I will look, and I'll put it as a link in here if I can still find it somewhere. So did you ever use, I know it was really big with my dad and Coach Sylvia, which is visualizations. Did you,
oh my goodness, yes.
can
Yes,
we talk a little bit about that? Because that's, I mean, that's in my blood, right? I mean, osmosis
sure.
since the
Yep.
years practically. So yeah,
We
maybe.
used to do positive visualizations back in the 70s
Mhm.
with our swimmers, including our 8 and unders.
Mhm.
And actually, the younger the kids are, the better they are at it.
I'm sure, because that's how they look at life anyway, right?
And they learn by doing. Yes, they
Yeah.
learn by doing. So we
Yeah.
would put on a video of a world-class swimmer,
Mhm.
and we would talk about the technique and show them certain things, and we would go in the wrestling room, turn all the lights out, and we would walk them through the visualizations and the relaxation process. And then we have them go into the pool and imitate what they saw on the video and in their own heads. And it's amazing how the younger kids would respond. And we could actually see in some of the older kids where they would get so into the visualizations and make it. And the whole idea of doing the positive visualizations is to not see yourself doing it outside of your body, like seeing yourself swim 50-yard freestyle, but actually experiencing that race in your body. And we could tell which kids were really, really good at it, because as we would talk them through this and they would dive into the water, the cold water, we would see the hair in their arms stand up,
Yeah.
because they were so deep into the visualization. And when they'd get up at the block of the state championships or the 50-yard freestyle, was it any big deal? No, because they've done it
Already done it.
5,000 times in their head.
That's right. Yeah.
They've already experienced it so many times, it was no big deal. You just go in there and you let it happen. You don't even have to think about it. You just let it happen.
Mhm.
So, this is something that is also an important part of any type of physical activity that you're going to do, and any other kind too. If you're on Wall Street and you want to make lots of money, you got to see yourself, visualize making
Yeah.
that money, how you're going to do it.
Yep.
When I was bodybuilding, I wouldn't bother with anybody. I'd put my headphones on with my music and go through my routine in my head, and visualize the whole routine. And by the time you get out there on stage, you don't even have to think about what you're doing, because you've done it. You've seen it so
Right.
many times
Right. Yeah.
that it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with those visualizations with your goals, is you want to experience them as they're happening and as they have happened.
Mhm. So I have a phrase I use that I only started using it a couple of years ago. I call it remembering the future. So when I do,
Cool.
yeah, right. So I have a whole
Mhm.
notebook, a whole journal devoted to remembering the future, and I do it in all kinds of areas. So I haven't always been consciously good at it, but I of course learned it when I was young in the swimming context. And I mean, last year the way I organized the whole race was I ran the whole race in my head, in my mind, as if I was there. I was at the beach. I could see the swimmers. I knew everyone was safe. I could do that. Now I'm having to do it because I need more sponsors. So I'm doing it at how I feel when I have all the sponsorship money I need to teach 200 kids how to swim, right? Then I do it for my own health goals the same way, right? How do I want my knees and my back to be able to let me move? That's one of those long-term ones.
Yeah, well, we all have those as we get
Yeah.
older.
Yeah.
Sometimes the goal is, oh, just get out of bed and not have the back hurt.
Yeah.
And some days that could be good enough. That could be
Yeah.
the goal for the day.
Yeah, I know it. Well, and I think that sometimes like when you set a goal and you visualized it and you've done all these things, and let's just take the swim. Say someone's done a mile and they want to do 2 miles, or they decide they're going to skip straight to 3 miles. But after 2 miles, they're like, no, I don't think I should go any further, because there's some feeling in their body. And that's actually not a loss if they then decide to get out at that point, because they were aware enough to do that. It's not a
Yeah.
failure. They already doubled what they'd done the year before, right? So I think sometimes it's hard when you haven't been involved with a sport or an activity enough to know, okay, what is a goal that is not just a dream? Do you see what I mean?
Yes, and that's a big part of it, is the goal has to be realistic, first of all.
Yeah.
You can't just say, okay, I've been a couch potato for the last 30 years, and in 6 months, I'm going to do an Ironman.
Yeah.
The goal has to be realistic, and it has to be something that you can absolutely believe in achieving 100%. If you set out the right plan, if you follow the plan, if you pay attention to your body, if you fuel your body the way it needs to be fueled, if you tend to your family needs, if you tend to your work needs, now how do you roll all that together and be happy, enjoy life, and achieve the goals that you want to achieve?
Right.
And that's part of those life lessons that you learn along the way. And I'm glad you mentioned your journal, because writing everything down is really important, so
Mhm.
that you have a record of everything you've done. If something starts to fall apart, which can happen, pretty easily with swimming technique. Swimming technique is very complicated,
Yeah.
and everything might be hunky-dory and you're going along fine. And then all of a sudden one day something doesn't feel right and you can't put your finger on it, or it just, something's just not
Your
right.
shoulder hurts and you suddenly can't, you have burning pain in your shoulder, for example, or something
Right.
like that, right?
And
Something's changed. Yeah.
yep. And you can't figure out why. Well, you know what? You can go back and look at that training journal to see what you have done. Was I lifting weights and I did a different exercise, or I tried to max out on something, which I know I shouldn't have done because that's pointless. But, you can look back at the history of what you've done, where you may be able to pinpoint something that can help you get through a little bit of a setback. If you don't have record of all that, it's a crapshoot.
Right. Right.
You're just taking a guess at, oh, geez, I don't remember what I did. I don't remember what I ate, or
Yeah. And
what.
sometimes it can be something that you did or ate a few days before, not
Absolutely.
a day
Yes.
or just before, right?
Right.
Well, and I
Right.
think this whole thing about um keeping going if you've had a little setback, or if family stuff or work stuff get in the way, I think that happens to a lot of people when they set a goal, is that then something big gets in the way and they just let it go,
Right.
because they're so I have another tool I use. It's called an outcome focused, which is the goal, purpose driven action plan. So the actions are all the short-term goals, but
Mm-hmm.
the first thing I do is I think about, okay, why do I want to do this? Right? Like somebody said to me when I started the Wild Bill Swim, well, this is for 2 years from now, right? Because we had like 4 months to get it organized. And I'm like, no, we're doing it this year. There's me, myself, I, and Ileana. There's 4 of us doing this whole thing. And you're right. And we pulled it off because I understood deep inside me why this was important to me. So every time there was something that got in the way, like a sponsor said no, or 3 days before when the beach was closed for E. coli,
Oh,
what are we going to do to keep this happening, right? So you have to be able to then, that's my whole action plan, is it's before it's a plan, I kind of dump all the possible actions I could ever take. Doesn't mean I'm going to take them all, but the possible ones.
the options.
Yeah, so then you have something to go back to. So when you're on a roll and you're swimming and you're training and or whatever it is you're doing, and then something happens, I don't know, you sprain your ankle or your shoulder hurts or whatever, and you can't do the same kind of thing that's on your plan, you don't just give up. Or
Right.
someone, you have to go somewhere to help a parent or a friend or a child or whatever. Things happen, as you said, things happen in
Sure.
life. It doesn't mean when you're doing that, you can't go for a run, or you can't at least imagine your race in your head.
Yep.
Right. There's all those things that I think, if you can remember, why am I doing this? Well, I'm doing this because I want to show myself again that I can do hard things. I want to be a model for my children. I want to increase my fitness level because I want to live a lot longer and I want to keep going. Any of those things, whatever they are, if you remember that, then you'll find different ways to make it.
Part of your purpose in life.
Yeah.
If you have that purpose and you understand that purpose, it's much easier to keep yourself on track and keep a healthy perspective about all the stuff that's going to come up in the meantime, that are going to be little roadblocks along the way.
Yeah.
But if you know yourself well enough deep down, and you know the purpose that you have for whatever the goals are, and you understand them and you believe in the purposes of the different goals, then the setbacks aren't really as big a deal, because you're going to keep going, and you're just going to roll with it, because that's all you can do, and there's something you can't control.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to achieve what you want to achieve. It's not just the one, right? There's lots of paths.
I was just going to say, it doesn't have to be a set path. There are alternatives.
Yeah, you talk to every single person who's done an Ironman, they all got there differently.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, well.
But, thinking what you think in your head and what you say to yourself and what you allow other people to say to you. There's another expression I like, or an affirmation that I like, that no one can make you feel bad unless you let them.
Yeah.
So you just don't listen to the naysayers. You don't let them make you feel bad, or you don't let them make you feel discouraged, or feel like the mountain you're trying to climb is too high or worthless or doesn't serve a purpose, or whatever gazillion other excuses they might throw out you. You disassociate yourself with those people, because they're not doing you any good.
Right.
You surround yourself with people who care about you and care about what you're doing and are willing to support you in whatever the effort is.
Yeah. Yep.
So the goals are, identify the goals, set up the long-term and the short-term plan, write everything down, review it occasionally, roll with the punches, because there will be punches.
Yeah.
And just adapt to things. It's not the end of the world if you don't get a workout in.
Right.
Life goes on.
Yeah. So for all the swimmers or the people watching, the Wild Bill Swim is starting a pool to open water training program at the YMCA in Southbridge, and it will be monitored through workouts on the Wild Bill Swim Facebook page that you can access. There's a special segment for that, and these were set up by a guy named Don Megerly, who Sherry also knows. He was one of Coach Sylvia's assistant coaches and trained under him for a long time. Was the men's swimming coach at Tufts University for many, many years, and he is still the marathon coach at Tufts University. And he's done a lot of open water swimming assists in the boat across the English Channel, he was on the call I did with Paul Asmuth, because he assisted with him. So it's a very solid program. We'll also be doing open water Thursdays. So Thursday evening at South Pond Beach. I'll be there. It's not an official group, because I don't want to have to hire a lifeguard, et cetera, et cetera. We will just be a group of swimmers swimming together, but I'll be there to answer any questions that you have about open water swimming, about swimming in a lake, about your stroke. We will set something up together. So all of those things that Sherry just talked about, I just provided you on a platter, the resources. So that's what you need, is a lot of resources. So you can contact me. I can give you Sherry's Facebook Messenger if you'd like to contact her with any questions. I hope that's okay, Sherry.
That's fine and dandy.
Thank you. One summer we'll get she and Bill out to even watch the swim. They won't be in it. I know Bill's not allowed.
Swim from Colorado.
Yeah, I know.
Massachusetts.
Well. So as always, Sherry, totally inspiring to me, and thank you very much.
Oh, Jen, you're welcome. Love you dearly, kiddo.
So
and for anybody that wants to know, she was a little hellion when she was a little kid.
Well, my mother says I wasn't, so
Well,
I prefer your version.
that's right. Strong women, baby.
Right.
Strong women.